They rode down to the beach this morning from down by the swap meet. We rode to the beach and did cleanup for an hour.
Well, good. I appreciate that. Like I say, well. Hi, go ahead and open this joint meeting, Oceanside City Council, Harbor District, CDC, for July the 5th, 2012. Roll call, please.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feline. Here. Councilmember Sanchez is absent.
Thank you. City Attorney for closed session.
Thank you. The City Council will be meeting in closed session to discuss the status of labor negotiations with the Oceanside Fire Management Association. Excuse me.
Thank you. Adjourn to closed session. Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I'm surprised to see this many people out after the 4th, but happy to see smiling faces. It was a little chilly at the beach yesterday, but I saw a lot of people down there having a great time. Great food, great activities at the beach, but we'll go forward from here. First half, can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez. Here. Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feline.
Thank you very much. And go with consent calendar, please.
Consent calendar items include items 3 through 9. We have a request to speak on item 4.
4.
Move approval for ballots.
I'll second. A motion second. I see no further comments. Please vote on the balance.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Madam Clerk, since the short nature of this meeting, let's go with item 4.
Item 4, approval of annual purchase orders for chemicals, equipment, supplies, and services in amounts over $50,000 for fiscal year 2012-13 from various water utilities department funds for a total of $3,323,477, and authorization for the financial services director or designee to execute the purchase orders.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Public on that?
The speaker is Dan Zinman.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. I think we saw a few emails from you and talked last time, and thank you, sir.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, water utility rates are still slated for an increase, so we meet again. When I was given the opportunity to speak to City Council, I did not know what to expect, as it was a first for me. I was encouraged when the mayor directed me to meet with the deputy city manager. I was even more encouraged by the discussions with Ms. Skaggs Lawrence and thought it would lead to a meeting with Carrie Dale. While Ms. Dale and I talked on the phone, she would not meet with me. It's particularly frustrating for the following reasons. Miles Chemical has been a supplier to the City of Oceanside for many years. We've been the go-to supplier. Most recently, when a chemical supplier had gone out of business, we're given material. We had it to you guys when you need it and how you needed it. Some way to treat a vendor. I even live in Vista and frequent Oceanside for dining and shopping. Probably what's most frustrating is that people want to talk about the process, reverse auction, not the results. You can see here that the communication I have talks about the process.
We do have your...
Okay, thank you. It's important to note that Miles Chemical supports and participates in reverse auctions. We work with many industries. There are situations where they make sense. In this case, it does not, because there's only 2 manufacturers of ferrochloride, and also for the following reasons. In 2011, last year, the city looked at doing a reverse auction for ferric and ferrous chloride and equipment. It failed and went out to bid. You can see what the price was, Miles at $599. This year, the decision was made to go to reverse auction. Only one company bid. It's not really an auction when there's only one company. You can see the price of $780 per dry ton. If you look at the difference, it's $181 per dry ton, which amounts to about $100,000 for the city in excess cost. Your neighbor, Encina Wastewater, just was awarded a closed bid for $549, and this is effective July 1st. Their last contract was for $566. If you piggybacked onto Encina, it would be $117,000 less than what you're going to vote on today. And you can look at the others. South Orange County Wastewater, San Alejo, Sweetwater. We can see the pricing difference, nowhere near the amount of $780. What's most important is that within this process was included the following. The city can reject, they can amend, they don't have to accept this bid. That's smart. I mean, it gives you guys some latitude and make the decision that's best for the city. For the products that make sense, continue the reverse auction. But where it doesn't, piggyback. Go to a closed bid. Guarantee you'll see the pricing that you see from the other utilities. I guess the bottom line is, in the article, Ms. Dale said the city has taken a number of steps to offset its higher costs, including eliminating 5 positions and cutbacks. That amounts to about $600,000. Why give back $100,000? It's not, I don't think, what the utility customers or you would want. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
We have a late request.
Please.
Ian Watson.
Good evening.
Pleased to speak with y'all. My name is Ian Watson.
In front of the mic, a little closer.
I'm sorry. My name is Ian Watson. I'm representing U.S. Peroxide, the winner of the ferrous chloride reverse auction. I came here today only to say that Mr. Zinman had the opportunity to participate in that auction as well as we did, and the result of the auction is the direct fact that no one else bid. So he's angry about the position because he protested it. So U.S. Peroxide, isn't a big fan of reverse auctions either, but we played the game, we participated, and at the end of the day, we feel like, this position that we're in is a fair one. Now, I'll leave it to you to make a decision about how you want to, handle that result, but at the end of the day, I think it's a little bit over the top that Mr. Zinman would protest in order to get the result that would be expected. This is the result he wanted.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you very much. Back to the Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did receive a couple of emails from this gentleman, and I did get a response back from Ms. Dale. Ms. Dale, could you come down and again respond to the questions that have been raised about this bidding process?
Sure, thank you. Just to give a brief explanation of what the reverse auction is, it's an online auction, a little bit like eBay, except you're underbidding bidders. The auction was advertised to bidders. It was advertised in the newspaper twice. Bidders were contacted several times and asked to participate. Both those folks that we contracted with during the present year and other chemical vendors that we were aware of. During this process, Miles Chemical declined to bid. The bidding process was reopened for an additional day for the ferrous chloride. They again declined to bid. They were contacted by phone to bid and declined to bid on the process.
So the company that is represented by the gentleman today that's speaking today, they were actually encouraged to bid.
Several times.
Several times. So there's not an issue of notice?
There's no issue of notice.
Okay. And staff picked the only one, which was no one else wanted to bid below that bid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Move approval.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Thank you very much. Councilmember Feline, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to follow up. Thank you, Dale and Carrie, for meeting with me earlier today to discuss this, but I think for the benefit of the public, I'm going to have you kind of rehash this because, of course, from the standpoint of the public, we want to make sure we have a bidding process that's as open as possible and results in, lowest prices for the city, and, of course, a lot of the procedures that are set up for the city are to make sure, there's no inside deals or any kind of a collusion or any kind of favoritism going on, and so they may at first blush seem kind of awkward or kind of elaborate, but it is with the best intent in mind, and of course we want to make sure we get the result that we hope for in terms of the lowest possible price as well as a fair and open process. Now, what would be the difference between the closed bidding process versus the reverse auction that we had here? Because just at first blush to me, it seems like the reverse auction would be preferable because everything's open for all the bidders and the public to see what's going on, and hopefully that creates a bidding war. And what situations would the closed bidding be preferable to a reverse auction?
Well, I can tell you about the procedure for the closed bid is that the vendor is providing one cost only. Those bids are open and then compared against each other to determine the lowest bidder. And in the reverse auction, you may have the bidder bidding several times and lowering his price several times to beat the competition, and thus you might realize a larger savings in competing in a reverse auction.
Yeah, and I need to ask the mayor, would it be appropriate to ask the speaker a question, or is his time's over?
City Attorney, please, you go right ahead.
If the speaker, if you could come forward, Mr. Moses. I mean, just for my own education as well as the public, what flaw did you see in the reverse auction process that you chose not to participate?
That's a very good question. Not as much the process as who the companies are. There's only 2 manufacturers of ferric chloride. The other manufacturer of ferric chloride, who's now Chimera, has bought up all the competitors. Their goal is to have a monopoly. When they have a monopoly, they can drive pricing back up. Municipalities like MWD, Orange County Sanitation, help to get us established in the marketplace. When we can compete or try to compete on something that's open, we just get buried. Their goal is to put us out of business. So when we go to a closed bid, and there's only 2 of us, then it gives a fair opportunity for pricing and for good pricing. Had there been multiple 3, 4 companies, we would participate very actively and do in reverse auction. But this is more of a competitive situation with a predatory competitor that's looking to have, once again, their monopoly.
Yeah, and I guess what you're saying then is with their power they can underprice, but your correspondence to us said they were paying more, so I see somewhat of an inconsistency there.
The inconsistency, I think, as Ms. Dale said, is you start with a certain price, like in eBay. Mm-hmm. Now, you can bid a penny for a car in eBay, but when you press the buy, there's that protection to prevent you from buying that car unless there's a buy it now. And that's where the risk runs with a reverse auction with only one bidder. I think that's also the reason why the city would look to put in a clause such as we reserve the right to refuse any bid. So it's a viable process. It's a good process. It's going to work for some materials. In this case, it hasn't worked. I think that can be shown by that 780 versus what you see from all of your neighbors as well as what we bid last year. So what we're saying is, in this case, in this situation, it's not the best process because of the competitive nature of ChemIron and California Water Technologies.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. City Attorney, please, though. Excuse me.
I just wanted to clarify that under Chapter 28 of the City Code, you already have the authority to reject any one of these bids. You don't need to add that as a clause to any of this. That's part of your authority today.
Thank you. And Carrie, if you can explain how the prices that we accepted in the bid compare to prices we've paid in the past and how they compare to neighbors, because there seems to be some, I guess, disagreement as to the price comparisons.
Sure. There's two chemicals we're speaking of today. One is ferric chloride. The present price is $5.99 per dry ton. We received a bid at $500 per dry ton, which is a savings of $27,000 over the previous year. For ferrous chloride, the present price is $5.99 a ton. We received a bid of $7.80 a ton, and the vendor voluntarily reduced that price to $7.55 a ton. We would be paying $39,000 more for that chemical per year. For the ferric chloride, the price that we received is a terrific price. Nobody better has had that price offered to them. For ferrous chloride, we are paying more than the neighboring agencies. However, if you take the total price of all the chemicals that we purchase and we've put through the reverse auction process, we've seen an increase overall of less than 1%. In fact, it's almost 0.5%, which equates to a little over $8,000, which to me is far below the price of inflation and is really a great result of the reverse auction, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I just, a couple things. Did you go in with an estimate of how much it was going to cost, something you'd have to figure into your budget before the cycle started?
Yes, we did.
And is there certain parameters, say, well, if it's way out of whack, we're going to kick it back? Is that... I'm used to dealing with engineering estimates on roads and things like that. You get the engineering estimates and the bids come in, and if they're way high, so wait a second, we have to go back and rethink this. Is that the same process that you have to go through?
Not in this case. We didn't do that, no.
Okay. And what other things do we use the reverse auction on? I mean, the closed bid stuff I understand. I think everybody understands that. You put out an RFP, we're going to take bids for pencils, and everybody puts in their bids for pencils, and we pick the lowest responsible bidder for pencils.
Last year and this year, we've only done chemicals used at our water and wastewater plants. However, Fleet has started to use this process for purchasing fuel, and we hope to expand this for other types of materials at the utility or other city services or materials that we may need in the future.
Yeah, the thing that really bothers me is the discrepancy of what other people are paying and us. I mean, that's $755 now instead of the $780, and the less than around the $600 mark for everybody else. Is that, to me, it seems way out of whack. I mean, there's nothing we can do to correct that. I think we're overpaying right now. Obviously, when you have a reverse auction, there's only one bidder, then I don't think that process is going to work when you have just one person bidding. I mean, they make one bid and nothing happens. So why did we go forward with that when we only had one bidder? It's not really an auction, it's just a sole source pricing.
And that was the reason why we extended the auction for one day, to encourage the second bidder to participate, and that bidder refused to participate. As a concession, U.S. Peroxide, who was the bidder that did participate, as a good faith effort, has reduced their price to $7.55 to make it more palatable to you.
Well, $150 difference is not, I guess it's a little bit more palatable. Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Pardon me. The other cities that surround us, do they use closed? Is that what I gathered from the information?
That's what I gather.
And were they bidding on the same two chemicals?
I do not know. I do not know.
So we don't know if we're, it wasn't a combination of things with, in the bidding process with those cities. It sounds like Miles had us before. Am I correct?
They're our current supplier for those two chemicals in question.
And now they've got a list of several that they bid on in in the closed bidding process. So I think what I'm trying to figure out here is, if there were concessions on the other product, I mean, we're talking about two different products here, and you gave us the one that saved us a lot of money over the prior year. What we have to be thinking about is saving the city money, and we're still 8,000 more, which is probably a reason for the problem here. You know, if you're combining the two chemicals, it's a pretty serious difference, and I'm not sure if I can support that difference other than the problem that I see of combining the two makes it considerably less. What were we paying before on the one that we're getting it for $500?
Yeah, for each of the two chemicals in question, we were paying $5.99. But I should note that we had probably more than 15 chemicals go to reverse auction. Several were bid higher than we presently pay. Several were bid lower than we presently pay. I think what's important to keep in mind is that the present rate of inflation is 3%. We did much better than that. We were at 0.6%. So to be at the level of inflation or below, to me, is a successful auction, and we've done our due diligence in saving the ratepayers money.
So I guess my question is going to be, did the successful bidder here bid on all those products in the bid on those other cities? Because we were just shown that every city has lower prices
I think what you were shown was that for the two prices that Miles Chemical wanted to show you, there were lower prices. On a lot of those chemicals that were in those bids, there were higher prices, and our reverse auction results were much lower than the closed bid method of bidding.
Do you compare notes with your fellow?
You know what? We don't, but it's something maybe we will start doing in the future.
Okay. I'm going to support this because of it being 0.6 and as compared to the 3% increase. So.
Thank you, Marsh. Please vote. Thank you very much.
Motion approved, 4-1. Kern,
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Madam Clerk, when you have a moment, please, general items.
General items. First is item 10, adoption of new City Council Policy 300-26, which sets policies and procedures for naming new streets and/or changing a previously approved street name.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Scott. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Please.
Good evening, council members, members of the public. I'm Scott Nightingale, here to present agenda number 10, which is for the adoption of new City Council Policy 300-26, which shall establish guidelines and a policy to ensure a uniform system for naming and changing a street name within the City of Oceanside. Due to the number of streets existing and planned throughout the City of Oceanside, the Development Service Department determined that it's in the city's interest to adopt this policy for naming it and or changing a street. According to the State of California Government Code Section 34091.1, all street names and changes must be reviewed by the city planner and the city engineer and fire chief prior to consideration by the city council. Staff has found that many other cities throughout North County have adopted these similar guidelines and policies as we have here. The way this policy works is if an applicant or a member of the public comes in who wishes to change their street or add street names to a new development or project, they must fill out an application for a street name or street name change, pay the required fees, and submit it to the planning division. They also need to provide us with a list of alternative street names if some of the street names that they're providing don't work. All names must be consistent and must meet the guidelines for streets based on their authorized street on the authorized street naming policy, which is within agenda number 10. Which basically, we have specific guidelines based on the size of streets, direction, shape, whether it's private or public, and that's all listed in the policy there. Staff will review this application and list the proposed street names and develop a recommendation and a staff report to council, where city council will adopt or deny the street name request. Staff believes that this policy will provide guidance and uniformity to the city streets when named or changed. This policy will provide a process for city staff and the public that will be consistent with the State of California government codes for naming streets. With that, staff recommends that City Council approve and adopt City Council Policy 300-26. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Scott. I'll see you at sidebar. Madam Clerk.
We have one speaker, Chris Wilson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just want to encourage you to adopt this policy. I think having a policy which makes choosing of street names a process in which there are standardized guidelines is a good thing and encourages public participation and can give the public a chance to raise any potential objections that may occur, and therefore I would encourage you to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you. Back to the council. Councilmember Kern, please.
I'm going to move approval on this. I think it's something that standardized this, but I need you guys to do me a favor. At the end of Douglas, Vandegrift, could you correct the spelling of Vandegrift? You know, it's one thing to name the streets, it's another one to have them spelled correctly. So if you guys can do that for me. But anyway, I move approval.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. I see no other lights. Nobody wishes to discuss this. Excuse me, Councilmember Sanchez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do know that there is one community who is thinking about coming to the council about changing the names of the streets, and that's Crown Heights. They've been talking about changing the names of Division and Center Street, yeah, to basically move towards basically owning the community, owning the neighborhood. And so hopefully we'll be able to help them do that. I don't think they've come up with any names yet, except for, I think, staff, correct me, instead of Division, it was going to be United or something, yeah. But they were also looking at perhaps honoring someone as well in the community. And so that is a process that would be coming forward to us.
Thank you very much. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, staff, everybody. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, next, please.
Item 11 is authorization to participate in the San Diego Pooled Insurance Program Authority Agreement for the services of TriStar Risk Management for citywide workers' compensation claims administration and processing for a one-year term, July 2012 to July 2013, and authorization for payments to Sandpiper in the amount of $220,176, paid on a monthly basis at an amount of $18,348.
Thank you, Pat. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Pat Nunez. I'm the Human Resources Director. The item you have before you today will allow the City of Oceanside to expand our participation in the San Diego Pooled Insurance Program Authority, or Sandpiper as we call it, to utilize the services of TriStar Risk Management as a third-party administrator for the Workers' Compensation Claims Administration. Sandpiper is a joint powers authority of 12 cities in the county, which provides a comprehensive risk management support service, a funding source to cover catastrophic losses, and a forum for sharing expertise and experience in the area. Approval of this item will allow Human Resources to contract out the administration of the city's workers' comp claims, processing, and result in the reduction of one full-time position. The annual cost, as Holly said, is $220,176. The amount will be covered by the budget currently in Human Resources through the reduction of the position. And the current number of open claims that we have has reached a number where one person can no longer manage it. So I'm either looking at expanding the size of the division, which I don't want to do, or contracting it out. So this will allow us to contract out the oversight. And contract out the work. The oversight will be done in-house by current staff. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Patty. Have a seat at sidebar, and we'll see if there's any questions or not. But
No speakers?
no speakers. Back to the council. Councilmember Sanchez.
Move
please.
approval.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor? I see no comments. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, number 12, your item.
Item 12 is the certification of the results of the special municipal election that was held on Tuesday, June 5th, 2012, at which time 2 ballot measures were presented to the Oceanside electorate. On July 3rd, the Registrar of Voters completed the final canvass of the ballots and certified the results of the votes cast in the June election. The total number of registered voters in the city is 77,598, and the total number of ballots cast was 30,752. These numbers show that there was a 39.63% voter turnout, which is excellent. Just as a side note, the current voting trend continues. 31% of the voters voted at the polls, 69% voted by mail ballot. With that, the election results are as follows. Proposition E, the ballot measure regarding vacancy decontrol, was unsuccessful with 10,495 yes votes and 19,337 no votes. Proposition F, the ballot measure amending the charter regarding certain election procedures, was unsuccessful with 12,546 yes votes and 16,600 no votes. We have not received a final bill from the Registrar of Voters, so we do not have the actual cost of the election at this time. As the final administrative action to finalize the election, staff recommends that the council adopt the resolution declaring the results of the special municipal election as reported and as included in your backup.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I do appreciate it.
We have one speaker, Jimmy Knott.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. First off, I'd like to thank the clerk's office and staff for taking and helping along with this process. I know it takes a lot of dedication of their time and their effort to successfully conduct an election. A lot of the people don't know what the effort is behind the scenes. Also, as was reported, is an ever-increasing amount of the voters are voting by mail. And since we are a charter city, I would encourage our city council to take and conduct our voting by mail if we can make sure that that is done. We do have that right as a charter city. The second thing I wish that we would do is looking at the amount of finance that was done on this. It was really horrendous. When you look at the hundreds of thousands of dollars that was spent on this, we need some campaign finance control and reform. And we need to have one thing that the clerk's office can take and help the public on. And that is an open disclosure campaign, donations, and expenditure ordinance to be put together so that it would be put online so that the public can have immediate access. As it was, they were depending upon various groups to have that information, and the various groups were questioned about the accuracy of that information. If it was put online, there would be no questions of accuracy. But you have not done this. Therefore, you take and you put at question, what is that accuracy? I know that on our one side, the accuracy was correct, and that was on the no on E. And also it can take and say that there was more people that voted no on E than voted for the charter. So I say that this is a real strong message that is being sent to this council. Thank you.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you. Back to the council. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it does appear that the estimate for the cost at this point is $163,000, but we're not completely sure. Is that correct, Ms. Strobel?
That's correct, especially with the addition of another language. We don't know how that's going to play out.
$163,000. And does that include the cost from before?
The cost from
counting the having the
from the petition, you mean?
The petition, the referendum.
No, the petition cost was separate.
And how much was that?
I don't recall offhand. I think it was around $29,000.
Right. I remember being at maybe around $30,000. So 30 plus 163, close to $200,000 for this election.
That's what the estimate is.
Yes. Thank you. Well, first of all, I think our community is to be congratulated on coming out to voice their opinion on something that was very critical to our community and to our seniors and veterans. So, Ms. Strobel indicated that we had a good turnout for a June election. And I know it's very difficult to get excited about an election where very few things were on there for most people. But for this one, there was something very critical to a community of seniors and veterans, and I want to thank the Oceanside voters for taking the time to exercise their constitutional right of letting us know how they felt about this. I have had a chance to look at the results, which were published, I believe, by the Registrar of Voters on July 3rd per precinct. Every single precinct having to do with E, the noes were outnumbered the yeses. And with respect to F, which was a very quick, something that was added onto the ballot rather quickly, out of 74 precincts, I'm not counting the one that says 0 on it, so out of 74, there were 11 where yeses outnumbered the noes, but there were 63 where the noes outnumbered the yeses. I think this is a clear message to us that we need to be more concerned about our residents. I've heard some rumors that perhaps this isn't over, and I think what we need to do is, at this point, move forward and accept this as a council, that this community does care about what happens to our seniors and veterans, that we do need a balance on this council. I'm going to move approval.
I'll second.
Certification of the results, and we'll be hearing about...
That includes adoption of the resolution.
Adoption of the resolutions. And we'll be hearing about the total costs later, but this was, at a time when we're counting every dollar, we had a referendum where we had over 15,000 people who signed the petition, and I think that was a good place where we could have stopped and not have spent so much money. So those are my thoughts, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I just want to bring up one point that we had a recall referendum that had 14,000 signatures too, and that failed and cost us $500,000. So Councilmember Sanchez, you can't continue to blame everything on the cost of uncalled for elections. So thank you for moving approval.
Councilmember Fellaini, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, obviously, elections, you win some, you lose some, and this time I was certainly on the losing end of 2 items, and I'm happy to take responsibility for the decisions I made to put these items on the ballot. But of course, as we take responsibility, I want responsibility and credit for the entire portfolio of elections. And as Councilman Feller mentioned, we can't leave out the $500,000 that was wasted on the recall, which lost by overwhelming margins and include a greater waste of money. And of course, for those who may have conveniently forgotten, the state Supreme Court issued an interesting ruling 2 days ago dealing with charter cities. Charter cities that some of the up here on this dais supported and won by a large percentage. In fact, won by the same spread that Prop F lost, roughly. And that has saved us over $1 million. So, yeah, I'll take credit for the $1 million. I'll take credit for not wanting to waste the $500,000. And I'll take my lumps for the $200,000 that was spent on this election. So, doing the quick math, that puts it $1.3 million in my favor. And so, I'll be happy to go to the voters with that record. So, but with ENF, you know, it was issues that were, as others have mentioned here, dealt with controversial issues. It was the intent of this council to allow the people to say where they wanted to go, and the people made their decision. Unfortunately, you know, I don't believe it was the correct decision, but that's the point of elections. And I do think in the long run, rent control damages every place where it's used. And I think, you know, unfortunately, there will be a day of reckoning because politics cannot overturn economics. But, you know, it's certainly the burden is on the people who want a yes vote. We did not meet that burden to the eyes of the public, and the public spoke. On Prop F, same issue. We're going to be going through a lot of tough decisions that we have to make regarding our budget. And so we brought forward a proposal that was vetted in public, contrary to the claims. The public chose, you know, what they chose. Once again, the yes vote failed to make a convincing case to convince the public to vote yes. You know, certainly there's issues on whether the turnout could have been what it was, or who showed up or who didn't. But the world belongs to those who show up, so a win's a win any way you get it. And the people who won get to celebrate. They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. The people who lost, you lick your wounds, you try and do better the next time. But all I ask is that people look at the whole record on what elections and all elections have cost this city and all the issues. So I'll put ENF out there as long as we put the charter out there and the recall out there and look at the total cost. And I certainly will vote approval for certifying the will of the voters. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and allow Councilmember Kern to speak, and then I'll come back.
His light wasn't on.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I appreciate that we have a difference of opinion on this, on the dais. I do. But the fact of the matter is, it was a David and Goliath what happened in the June election. There was over $500,000 spent fighting seniors and veterans of Oceanside by corporate interests outside of this community. It is the reverse of what happened in the recall, because it was 3 people on this dais who decided the fate of thousands of seniors and veterans. Just 3 people. That's the difference here. And if we want to talk about how much money was wasted besides, and it's all, I guess, taxpayer money, right? Besides the $200,000, another $500,000. As to the recall, that was a petition drive. It was not 3 council members on the dais who put it on the ballot. Completely different. So if what you're saying is you do not believe in the people's right of referendum, well, that's a different story. Okay? I do believe in the referendum process, and I do believe that in this instance, over 15,000 signed a petition, and close to 20,000 voted against it. It was an exercise in futility. It was a lot of stress on community members of our city. 3 people did that on this dais, not 7,000 or 8,000, 9,000 people who signed a petition. 3. That's what I object to. So let's take responsibility for each of us, that it was 3 of us here who put this community, this city, in so much stress and pain. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please. Can't hear you.
At this point, we have a motion by Councilmember Sanchez. We do not have a second. Oh, you seconded it? I'm sorry.
Sorry, ma'am, I must have been quiet. Council, let me say this. Water under the bridge, be cautious here. We're moving forward. It happened. Take it for that. Councilmember Feline, please.
Thank you. I know we're all going to look through events through our own glasses, but we can't help, if we're going to review the recall, to say that one was the people versus one was just 3 members. Boy, talk about selective memory. I think if we review the financial reports dealing with the recall, we will find there was not a single reportable contribution to the recall campaign by a single citizen of this city. Now, if Councilwoman Sanchez would like to go with me to the city clerk's office and we can check that out, we saw every single contribution was from out-of-city unions, with one contribution from the mayor's campaign committee, with not one single citizen contributing one single reportable dollar to the recall. That's the real history of the recall. And and I believe that was another one that involved tons of out-of-state money, certainly money that came from as far away as New York City to try and influence our city, plus all the rest of it coming from outside our city. And finally, people all over the state realized what a power grab that was and came to Councilman Kern's defense. And the people did have a chance to speak. And yeah, I was on the right side of that event. So were other members here. We're on the wrong side of today's elections that we're certifying, and that's democracy. And in the end, the voters, as they should, have, will have their say. And I, too, totally support the referendum process. It's one of the great reforms in our state, in our country, in the world, that allows the people to say that we're going to take charge of our government when they feel that it's warranted. And sometimes we agree with the outcomes of referendums, sometimes we don't. I'm sure everyone here has been on the winning side and losing side of different issues as that's come before the state and our communities, and that's democracy. That's what we celebrated yesterday. It's great to be part of it, and we'll certainly move ahead, but let's try and not be too selective in our memories.
Thank you, sir. I'll make just a quick statement since we're getting a little long here. The recall, whatever the reasons were, and I know what they were, I got to say this, it's brought up almost every time money is involved. The recall, in my opinion, was about breaking up 3 members of a voting majority. And the reason I think it went in a direction that it did is Councilmember Chavez, who was part of that 3, abandoned this city and moved on. That was after all this was going forward. And then a lot of people said, well, we broke them up. There's no need for the recall election anymore, but it had gone too far. I want to remind people of that, too. Sorry, money was spent. I know I was involved like everybody else. We have our own sides. But I want to remind you that when Councilman Chavez left, that was to break up 3 people, and he left on his own. But with that being said, I know there's sides here. I apologize that we're going long here. Could we please vote on this one? And I think it is about this one, Holly, right? Thank you. Please vote. Thank you. That was an interesting one. I appreciate it. Once in a while, write a book about it. Ladies and gentlemen, pardon? Yeah, can we take about a 5-minute break if we may?
5 o'clock thing anyway.
We've got a 5 o'clock thing anyhow. We'll go ahead and take a break right now so I can set up things, and we'll get back here probably 10 or 15 after 5. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Where'd Jack? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second half of our council, which is uniquely on Wednesday, not Thursday. We had to put it on this date because of the 4th of July. We finished one part of it, second phase. If I may tell everybody, this is going to be an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. I'd ask everybody to stand for that. When they're finished, you can be seated. And if you have a pager or cell phone, put it on quiet or vibrate. We'd appreciate it. With that invocation, Valerie, please.
At this time, we would call forward Reverend Malaki Teoiliili from the Oceanside Samoan Congregational Church of Mesa Margarita.
Pastor, thank you.
Let us pray. O God, whom people of different persuasions call by different names, yet on whom we all alike rely for our lives, our land, and for the opportunity for happiness, grant us, we pray thee, a new and revitalization of our city right here in Oceanside. Help us, O God, to remember that we are Americans, united not by race or religion or blood, but to our commitment to freedom and justice for all. When we focus on ourselves, when we fight each other, when we forget you, forgive us. When we presume that our greatness and our prosperity is ours alone, forgive us. When we fail to treat our fellow human beings of this city with the respect that they deserve, forgive us. Grant our mayor and our city councilmen and city councilwomen clarity in their aims, responsibility in their actions, humility in their approaches, and civility in their attitudes, even when they differ in their opinions. Help the leaders of this city and its citizens to share, to serve, and to seek the common good of all. May all people of Oceanside join together to work for a more just, a more healthy, and a more prosperous city and more peaceful streets. And may we never forget that one day all nations and all people and all of us here within this beachside community stand accountable before you. We pray this along with silent prayers of each of our citizens in the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Now this evening, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, from the Church of Mesa Margarita, we have the following youth that we will call forward. Anoy Elisara.
Thank you.
Semurana Laye. Tony Teoiliili. Malama Sunia. Ariel Elisara. Donovan Laye. Eddie Laye. Malu Malo. Johnny Laye. Malcolm Lau Young. John Carter. Marcus Lau Young. Sabrina Teo. Polima Ulukita. And Moses Teoiliili.
Pastor, you come on, let's get up here with it. Who's got the mic? Thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I may, somebody can turn sideways to bring us all in to get a photograph. So we kind of have to squeeze in it, Pastor.
You go ahead.
No, we're both going to have to hold our breath.
Okay, let's see what we've got. I'm going to take 3 of these just to make sure this is too good. Okay, so everyone looking forward, smile.
Hey, thank you very much. And God bless all of you, and thank you for coming in on a Thursday. Have a safe summer. Thank you very much, Pastor, for bringing them here. Thank you. Take care. They look wonderful. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I want you, this next group, remember this, some of these would be a good mascot for the church.
The next presentation is Pet of the Month, and with us tonight we have from the San Diego Humane Society's North Campus, Allison Sabino, the adoption supervisor. Alicia Del Forno, the client relations manager. And Athena Davis, the happy coordinator.
I'm taking the mic. Well, hello, everybody. We're here today with 3 of our fantastic dogs. This is Snoopy. Oops, I'm dropping treats. Snoopy, Scrappy, and Cinnabon. And they're 3 of kind of our ambassadors for the quality of dogs that we have at the San Diego Humane Society. So if anybody is looking to adopt a dog or cat or bunny or reptile or bird or many of the other animals that we have, definitely come on by. So I'm here with Allison today, the adoption supervisor, and Athena, our happy coordinator. And some of you may be wondering what a happy coordinator does. Well, this is one of our newer positions here at the San Diego Humane Society, and she's really working hard to kind of reach out to other rescues in the area and find maybe things that we're working on in common, and try and really focus on getting some of our long-term animals, adopted animals that have been in our care for a long time. So she kind of has a smorgasbord of duties, and definitely has a wonderful job, hence the name Happy. And so one of our newer programs that we're starting at the San Diego Humane Society actually started today, and it's called Fur Fix Thursdays. So it's for, those individuals out in the community who maybe don't have the ability to have an animal at home with them, and really just need a fur fix. So that's going to be every Thursday starting today from 3 to 5 p.m. at our Airport Road facility. It's located at 572 Airport Road in Oceanside. And what we do is we provide all the materials for you to make your own crafts, and to actually use some of those crafts to play with our animals. So you can make kitty toys and visit some of our kittens, and we will always have an animal there for you to get your fur fix with. So thank you for having us today. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, I've got to definitely mention one of our perks. If you live in the area, make sure you come and visit our dog park. A lot of people have fun at our dog park with their animals, and it's definitely, we've put a lot of work into it, and it's a great place to spend some time with your pet.
It's more than that. It's a social gathering down there. Everybody goes down, their chairs, the families, their dogs. It looks like a little teeny stampede of little dogs on one side and the big dogs are on the other. I love it. I had my mother down there a few weeks ago looking for a dog. You were helping me, and I thank you for it, but she's still a little upset about her 16-plus-year-old dog that passed away, so I think she's trying to get through that. But anyhow, thank you for helping me. I thought both dogs were prime. I would have got with either one of them. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. And a great-looking church dog here, one of these. Thank you.
Well, when she's ready, come on back.
One more Facebook. Oh, where'd you have to figure out? Take it in here. Everybody smile. You're on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're briefly have to go. Please do so. We'll continue. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. It was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, who's our audience? You talk to the chamber.
Madam Clerk, thank you very much. I'll go with the City Attorney, closed session report.
Thank you. The City Council met in closed session to discuss the status of labor negotiations involving the Oceanside Fire Management Association. There is no reportable action to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. I appreciate it. Madam Clerk, could go with 19.
Item 19 are communications from the public on items not on the agenda. We have one speaker, Christopher Wilson.
Thank you very much. Nice you to come on Thursdays, by the way.
Well, thank you. Mayor, members of the City Council, just sort of a follow-up on an item that I presented to you during this portion of the last meeting, that being the request by Google to include public buildings in their Google Indoor Mapping project. I've been in contact with folks from the library and the city's engineering department, and we've gotten floor plans for the public areas of the renovated public library that have been uploaded to Google and are in the process of being processed and worked into that. And so as a result of that, I think we're going to be the first public library on the west coast of the United States to be included in Google's indoor mapping project, which is, I think, a nice feather in the cap for the city of Oceanside. Again, Google has expressed interest in potentially providing indoor mapping for other public areas of buildings that the city owns, and I would encourage the City Council to consider directing staff to work with Google on this project so that we can make Oceanside potentially the first completely digital city on the West Coast. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And you get the opportunity to go item number 20 for the...
Item 20 is a public hearing. Introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, and 13 of the Oceanside Municipal Code to reflect adoption of the 2010 editions of the California Building, Residential, Electrical, Mechanical, Plumbing, Energy, and Green Building Codes, with certain amendments, additions, and deletions, and adoption of a resolution of findings supporting the local amendments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As a mayor, I'll open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members.
Staff, and I drove by the site.
None?
All of them?
All of them, yeah.
I'm
All
just
of
kidding.
them?
I didn't drive by the site.
Thank you. All of them? None. Staff?
No contact.
Staff only.
Thank you very much for that. Madam Clerk, correspondence or petitions?
No correspondence.
Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Brown, good evening, sir. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor Wood and members of the council. My name is Rick Brown, and I currently serve as your interim chief building official for the city. The matter before you tonight is an ordinance and resolution adopting the 2010 editions of the California Building Codes with local amendments to those codes that are contained in Chapter 6 of the Oceanside Municipal Code. This year there are two new state codes, the California Residential Code that applies to obviously residential projects, as well as the California Green Code that addresses sustainable building practices and is also a statewide code. This is generally a routine process that occurs every 3 years to reflect the latest editions of the codes valid throughout the state of California. I would like to speak briefly on the difference between administrative and procedural regulations versus local amendments affecting fire and life safety matters. Those fire and life safety matters need to be addressed by a separate resolution, which is included in your package, and then have to be supported by findings that I have included in your resolution there. If adopted, these regulations will become applicable, and the approved ordinance and resolution are then submitted to the State Building Standards Commission and the State Department of Housing and Community Development. I'd like to conclude my presentation and offer to answer any questions that you may have.
Rick, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a seat at the sidebar. We'll see how it goes from there. Madam Clerk, please.
This is a public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak on this, please come forward.
Madam Clerk, I see nobody rushing up to the podium, so I'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Come back to the council. Councilman Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move introduction of the ordinance.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much.
Is that with also the resolution or the certification of findings?
We'll need both the introduction of the ordinance and the adoption of the resolution.
Yes.
Is that with a second? Thank you very much. Councilmember Kern, please.
Just one quick question, because I know I've been trying to track this down off and on. The residential building code that requires sprinkler systems, is that in this here? The separate system? And because I've been kind of bird dogging this last year about separate meter, current, using the same meter, separate systems. I kind of got lost where it was. So if you can refresh me where that's at right now?
Yes, Councilmember Kern. In the California Residential Building Code, which is state law, there is requirements for residential fire sprinklers. The issue of separate systems, as in water systems, to provide basically separate water for fire protection and separate domestic water is not a part of the state's residential building code. That matter is generally addressed at the local level and varies from city to city. In this case, my recommendation is we adopt only the mandatory provisions of the California Residential Code with no further local amendment on the fire sprinkler systems.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, please.
So what you're really saying is we have to do this? Is there fighting some of these regulations drive me a little crazy, but
the adopted California building codes, which is that entire body of regulations, are adopted statewide by the state, and we, as the city of Oceanside, do not have the ability to disregard those. The abilities we do have here locally is to amend those portions that relate to life and fire safety, but the only amendments we can make is to make them more restrictive. I have not brought forth any recommendations to do so in that area, with the exception of roofing requirements, and I have recommended for the city a minimum of a Class B fire rating for roofing, which would be middle ground and common with our surrounding cities and generally throughout Southern California.
I just wanted to make sure that the public knows that we're not throwing something else at them. It's somebody that we can't help. So,
thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please.
If there's no additional comments, I'll go ahead and title the ordinance. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 6 of the Oceanside City Code by the adoption of the 2010 editions of the California Administrative Building, Plumbing, Mechanical, Housing, Electrical, Dangerous Building, Residential, and Green Building Codes.
Thank you, sir, very much. With that, please vote, please.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Let's go back to council reports 13 plus.
Item 13 is Mayor Jim Wood.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's unusual to have a Thursday council meeting. We explained it earlier because of the 4th of July yesterday. We had to have this to certify the election. With that, the closings, I would like to say, I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July holiday. We understand, a little overcast, typical, and a little cool at the beach, but had a smaller turnout than usual. I think that may be because we have very little beach out there anymore. I hope that gets rectified. Also, Samoan celebration taking place this weekend. For information, contact City Parks and Recreation Division. 760-435-5041. A special unveiling of the new plaque honoring Junior Sayo at the Beach Community Center. More information coming from Councilmember Sanchez. And the renaming of the center to the Junior Sayo Beach Community Center will be taking place this Saturday, July the 7th at 2 p.m. at the beach. And other than that, I would like to close this meeting, if I may. Following the national holiday that we just had, I'd like to close this meeting and honor all those military men and women who have given their lives in the call of freedom around the world. That's all I have, and we will be adjourning to August 1st, next council meeting at 2 p.m., and that's all I have. Thank you.
Item 14, Deputy Mayor Feller.
Thank you. Did go down to the beach yesterday, and I think we were over police enforced down there by. So I'm sure the city manager and the chief are going to get together on that. They had most of the calls were for stingrays and jellyfish, so I think they did a great job. I just wanted to mention Steve Brunt's, Jane Cincerelli Brunt's husband passed away, and the funeral was last Saturday. And my thoughts and our thoughts go to Jane for Steve was a great contributor to the youth and Little League, and so he will be missed. We only have 5 birthdays in our family in the first 11 days of this month, so, and then we're over until August 1st, so it's really a happy birthday time in our family. So, and I just want to publicly wish my wife happy birthday. She's just a wonderful woman, and I truly wish her the happiest birthday.
Item 15, Councilmember Feline.
Well, I think since the last council meeting, the only event I had the opportunity to attend, and of course it's always a wonderful event, is our Freedom Days Parade last Saturday, along with all the other council members. And it certainly is great to celebrate our nation's freedom and have an opportunity to express our gratitude to our armed forces and their families for the sacrifices they make to keep our nation safe. And it was great that in its own way that we were able to certify elections the day after the 4th of July. And that, that's what our country's all about, that the voters are always in charge, and sometimes they tell elected officials what they want to hear, sometimes they don't. But in the end, like I said, the voters are in charge, and that's how it should be. And so I think it's also important that we reflect that after the American Revolution, it's the only revolution in the history of the world in which after it was over, both economic and opportunity and political freedom was better than when it began. And so it's wonderful to celebrate one more time.
Item 16, Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Holly. Yeah, I was in the Freedom Days Parade. Actually, I think Councilmember Feline kept trying to run me down because my wife and I actually walked the parade, gave out 300 flags, but we were running back and forth across the street, and Gary kept telling Bruce Morton, like, go faster, go faster. So, but that was a great time. And actually, I jogged the whole time. I think I worked up quite a sweat running up and down the street. So it was fun. I recommend it. I recommend walking where you can actually go out and talk to the people. It was really a lot of fun that way. But I got in trouble. Rick Wright told me next year I had to go back to riding the Surrey and pedaling the little bicycle down the street because they lost me on all the people that were giving the announcements couldn't see me because I was on the side of the street. So they would skip right over me and start announcing Councilmember Feline. So he got the star treatment. And who was that guy that just ran by us? We don't know. So anyway, other than that, I did have the first beer at the Stone Company store. And we won't talk about who got the second one, will we, Michelle? No, we won't. So it was, I recommend it. It was, have a chance to go down there, and we may be able to get down there this evening. It's 5:30. We ought to do all our council meetings on Thursday nights. Maybe to set a trend. So that was down on Tremont Street. There is no signage. They don't believe in signs. You only go there because you want to be there. And if you've ever been to the one in Escondido, it's the same way. There are no signs. Other than that they have on their glass doors, they have the symbol of the beer, but they have no outside signage.
Just follow you there.
Well, no, I think the city manager kind of got it when we were talking about it. It's these devices right here that people know. You know, they put it in here and say, this is where we're going, it's our destination, and this is where they go. The city manager found it. So it works.
Michelle let him down there.
Yeah. No, actually, Peter didn't get down there till a little bit later. So anyway. Also, one other thing, this is a great week for the taxpayers of the city of Oceanside. If anybody's been following along what's happening with charter cities, everything that was always said, there was always this threat of the Vista case hanging over us about prevailing wage. Councilmember Feline addressed it shortly in his previous remarks, but I can't emphasize how much this means to charter cities. I will probably predict by June of 2014, you will probably have at least 8 to 12 new charter cities. Just this week, because of the Vista decision, the city of Temecula is going to try to become a charter city. They started the process. They started their first meeting there. So the city of Escondido will be a charter in November. The city of Costa Mesa will be a charter in November. And I don't think there's enough time for other cities to become charter cities right now because of the state legislature keeps trying to slow this down because they don't like to see charter cities because it gets out from underneath the legislative process. So the citizens the city taxpayers are the big winners on this. Our city charter allows our city to exempt itself from the state prevailing wage rates on municipal construction projects. This ruling confirms our authority locally under the California Constitution to exercise the type of local control to save taxpayers money. We can continue to pay construction wages levels that set by the local market, not by unions out of Los Angeles or bureaucrats in Sacramento. When wage rates are set at reasonable rates for local markets, there is more money for more jobs and more projects. It's not fair to make Oceanside construction wages match big labor union deals within other cities. The ruling helps eliminate this unfair practice. Study shows that state-mandated wage rates increase the costs and decrease efficiencies. In 2005, California study showed that prevailing wage rates can add 9 to 37% to the cost of construction. This takes power away from Sacramento politicians who have driven California's economy into the ground. Charter cities are laboratories of reform, and we will continue to look for ways to physically reform our city and save government, save taxpayers money. Sacramento should be following our lead instead of trying to impede our progress. Oceanside is not Los Angeles or San Francisco or Sacramento. As city council members, it is our right and our duty to protect the city of Oceanside. It is our job to protect the taxpayer dollars of Oceanside, to not subsidize big labor unions and their political pals. The court said autonomy with regard to the expenditure of public funds lies at the heart of what it means to be an independent government entity. We can think of nothing that is greater municipal concern than how the city's tax dollars will be spent, or anything that could be of less interest to taxpayers in other jurisdictions. The court reaffirmed, as far as municipal affairs are concerned, charter cities are supreme and beyond the reach of legislative encroachment. I have a feeling that this whole thing about the PLA bans that the state's trying to force on, or the exemption of the PLA bans that the state's trying to force on us, will also be set aside in future date. Because if you just read what the courts have said about prevailing wage, you can also apply to forcing cities to incorporate PLAs. With that, thank you.
Item 17, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I did attend the Enviro Fair. Actually, I was a speaker along with Colleen Foster, talking about zero waste and how to get cities to adopt zero waste goals. Also got a chance to meet Captain Moore. That was a pretty cool thing to do. Want to thank everyone for coming out to our Independence Day Parade this past Saturday. I want to especially thank Main Street for taking the lead on our parade, making sure that we have our parade every year. It was just great to see everybody. The day was a perfect day for a parade, and we sure did celebrate our birthday, our country's birthday. I did attend the opening prayer for the Samoan Cultural Celebration, which is this whole week. This is something special for Oceanside. We have one of the largest Samoan communities on the West Coast. Certainly it's because of Camp Pendleton and their just a very patriotic way of showing us how they feel about our maintaining our rights and our freedoms. So that was this past Sunday. There were actually 12 Samoan churches within the Oceanside Vista community. There were 5 pastors and 5 choirs. They sounded like angels. It was really truly wonderful. This coming Saturday, yes, Mr. Mayor did mention that we are going to be doing the dedication of the Beach Community Center and the amphitheater for Junior Seau. The Seau family is going to be there, as well as other dignitaries, and we're really, really excited. Actually, I've heard that our kids are very excited about this event, and that's this coming Saturday, 2 o'clock at the band shell. And there were some other things that were happening. Oh, yes. This coming Saturday as well is St. Mary's Annual Salad Luncheon that will be taking place at the Star of the Sea Center. So we'll be taking a break probably to go grab that lunch and then go back to the band shell for the Samoans festivities. The festivities begin about, was it 10:30? And then go to about 4 o'clock. So 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Well, I would stay till about, dances. I mean, you really have to come down this coming Saturday to the band shell and see some wonderful Samoan cultural dances and music. It's just very wonderful. And I again want to thank our voters, 30,000, for coming out to vote in June. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, thank you very much for everything today. I'll go to adjourn this meeting to Wednesday, August 1st, 2012, 2 o'clock. Thank you. Good night. Be safe. Have a good holiday and summer season.